Hello there guys, RMP792 here. So, Discovery Season 2, Episode 3. You're doing so well, Discovery. Yeah, this episode's kind of a mess. I think the main problem with this episode is that fundamentally it's got 4 pieces that it's trying to juggle. And that means that, the A-plot... I don't even know what I would count as the A-plot and the B-plot in this episode. So I'm going to go through each of the 4 pieces as I see them, and talk about them individually, because for the most part they don't really have much impact on each other, which is a bit of a problem for an episode like this. So, plot number 1 is that Amanda turns up on board Sarek's shuttle. I'm assuming he's got a new one since the last one exploded. Or has it been repaired? I can't remember if they actually recovered the shuttle or just him, but either way. So yes, Amanda is here. That's all well and good. Amanda's a potentially interesting character. And of course they spend the entire episode just talking about Spock, and apparently Spock has broken out of the mental institution and murdered a bunch of people on his way out the door. Yeah, something's wibbly here. But yeah, so and most of the episode is just them faffing, trying to find that out. And then near the end, we get the revelation that Spock clearly saw these red angels, as they're currently being referred to. He clearly saw them when he was a child, and they helped him find Michael when she ran away from home. So, that implies that, for whatever reason, this species has attached themselves to her and Spock, specifically. Okay. You do know one of the problems with Season 1 was that she was kind of overshadowing everybody else, right? Again, I like my Star Trek as an ensemble show. You can have a prominent character, but you don't want them overshadowing everybody else, which is what she did in Season 1. And for the most part, that hasn't been as much of a problem for the first 2 episodes of Season 2. So, let's try not to overdo it. And there's some implication in the backstory that, she did something really, really awful to make Spock hate her for some reason. It's implied that it was in some way meant to protect him or some bollocks. I don't know. This is undoubtedly going to be the whole, this is why Spock hasn't, ever mentioned her, ever, in any continuity or timeline. So, yes, it still feels very fanfiction-y. Speaking of fanfiction, I'm going to be talking about Star Trek Online tomorrow. But yeah, so that's... I don't know if I count that as the A-plot or as the... I think that's less of a plot of the episode and more just the ongoing continuity arc. So that was... that mostly went nowhere, because again, it's all just teasing and setup for future stuff. Then you've got the Tilly plot. And this was sort of the most interesting part of the episode. It's the ongoing thing from last week of Tilly has been hallucinating somebody she knew when she was, I think she said about 14, 15. Because, her mother... Was it her mother or was it her father? It was one of her parents was, transferred to a posting somewhere. Tilly went with them. She was at a school for 6 months. She got on quite well with this kid. She left. And now suddenly she's hallucinating this person she knew for a very short period of time, all grown up, except for the fact that that person is now dead. And as I said last week, I called that the big twist was going to be, oh my god, this person Tilly's hallucinating is dead. And this plot was the most interesting part of the episode for me. And it wasn't very interesting. And I don't know, there was something about the way the actress was playing the role was incredibly annoying. And I think that's what they were going for, because part of the point of this is that, it's driving Tilly a bit bonkers. But I think they over-egged that particular pudding. It goes from annoying the character to annoying the audience. So Tilly is hallucinating, and I spent the entire episode sitting there going, go to sickbay. Go to sickbay. Go to sickbay. Because, I'm sorry, Tilly is smarter than that. If you start hallucinating after taking a smack to the head, you go to the sick bay. You say, hello there, I've been hallucinating. I got smacked on the head. Please scan my brain. So she kind of has a moment where she snaps at Pike because she's actually snapping at the hallucination, and she goes through the usual stuff. It's so trite, this episode. It really is. I could have written that in the sequence of events in my sleep because it's so cliched. It genuinely would have been much more interesting if she had just immediately gone to sickbay, because frankly, you don't see that enough. And that would frankly be a good message on the mental health front, which is, if you think something's a bit weird with your brain, go and talk to a professional about it and see if they can help. Stop with all this keeping it to yourself bollocks. But eventually it turns out what's going on is she's been infected with some spores. These goddamn magic mushrooms. I'm just going to refer to them as the magic mushrooms from now on because, frankly, it's funnier. So turns out one of the magic mushrooms, while they were exiting the other universe, sort of latched onto her and into her. And it got effectively woken up, I think, when she got zapped by the asteroid. Because for some reason this asteroid reacts with the spores, the mushrooms. Again, potentially interesting concept, and there's some interesting stuff in there about the fact that this spore life form clearly doesn't quite understand things, because for one thing, it thinks Stamets is the captain, because he's the one who sits in the chair and plugs himself in and actually flies the ship. Which is an interesting sort of thing, because when she was talking about the wrong captain, I was assuming that they were in some way talking about Lorca, and maybe it was going to be hinting that he's been lost in the network, and he's going to turn up again, which I still think could happen at some point. Get Parallel Universe Lorca back for an episode or two. Could happen, might not, who knows. Sorry, it's a little chilly in this room, if you're wondering why I'm slightly shivering. Joys of a really cold day in a room with lots of windows in it. So, and eventually, she eventually confesses to Michael, and again, go to sickbay. And Michael figures out, this has to be spore related, obviously. You don't need a doctor, you need Stamets. So they go down to engineering, and they incidentally, I'm still not sure, is that meant to be Discovery's main engineering, or is that a bit near engineering? A room sort of connected, say just across the corridor or something like that. Because there's no sign of a traditional warp core or anything like that in there. But then again, you don't actually see what you would dub a traditional warp core until Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because obviously they didn't have the budget for big swirly column of cool until they actually got to the motion picture. So the Enterprise's engine, the original NCC 1701's engine room looks a bit sort of industrial painting, is the most honest way I can describe it. But yeah. So they sort of extract the spore, and it's bleeding huge, and that's where that plot just stops. So I'm assuming that's going to get continued next week. And presumably this life form is going to be important in some way. I wouldn't be surprised if it's somehow connected to the Red Angels or something like that. Again, this show loves bringing everything back to its damn magic mushrooms, which, I'm still not a fan. But yeah, so that's plot number 2. And again, keep in mind, each of these plots only has 10, 15 minutes of episode each to really deal with. So I would argue that the plot I'm referring to as plot 3 is effectively the main plot of the episode, because it's the only one that actually gets resolution, which is L'Rell and Voq back on Kronos. Yeah, you know how last week I was saying I was enjoying the fact that they didn't have any Voq, L'Rell stuff? Why do I open my big mouth? Seriously. So, yeah. L'Rell has hair now. There's a throwaway line about the Klingons starting to grow out their hair now that the war is over. which is complete BS. We've seen Klingons at war before, and no, they don't shave their heads. They didn't even do it in the original series, so, who knows? But yeah, and people have grown hair very, very quickly. I mean, yeah, Klingons do go through periods of rapid hair growth, but that's during puberty. It's not a thing that happens just randomly at any point in their life after they've shaved. So, but yeah, so with that, you've got L'Rell as Chancellor trying to secure a position, and Ash acting as her torchbearer, and you've got. I think he's meant to be the father of the sort of main Klingon antagonist for the first half of the last season. They've got the same house face paint, so like that and things like that. And this is basically Klingon politics. And here's the thing: I kind of like politics based in TV shows. I'm one of the few people who actually kind of likes the Senate stuff in Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3. Kinda. It's not very well executed, but the actual principle is actually really good. It's just executed horribly, like pretty much everything else in Episode 1, 2, and 3. The basic plots are fine. They're just... But anyway. But yes, so... Klingon politics, so lots and lots of shouting and they kept swapping back and forth whether they were speaking in English or not, and frankly... You could have just explained that as, they're still speaking Klingon, but we're translating it for you. So yes, it was nice that they were speaking English a lot more, so you could actually, let the actors act. Didn't need the you didn't need to throw in the line about, why do you speak English around me? Or, we're speaking in the common tongue now. Since when is English the common tongue of the Klingon Empire? No, just... They can be speaking Klingonese without you having to actually... show them speaking Klingonese. It's fine. We've been doing this for 50 goddamn years at this point. We know how this works. So yeah. But and Voq, Ash. I'm gonna go with Ash because he is still Ash. He's just got Voq's memories. Basically learns that L'Rell's uncle is keeping something from him, and L'Rell's uncle's attitude is, yeah, we probably should have told you this a while ago. Congratulations, you're a father. So Voq basically, Ash. Ash. Stick with Ash, Richard. Stick with Ash. So yeah, so Ash finds out that L'Rell and Voq had, she found out that she was pregnant with Voq's kid pretty much about the time that he was undergoing the surgery to turn him into Ash. And obviously, if she was going to be his handler, she couldn't, she couldn't really be pregnant while doing that. So, it's implied she just, kind of had the baby incredibly early. I'm assuming that Klingons have some equivalent of tubing, or, that they can in some way extract a fetus and actually have it come to term. That I'm actually kind of fine with. That kind of medical technology. Klingon medical technology isn't actually as bad as a lot of people assume, because at the end of the day, they want as many warriors as possible. And one thing I've always wondered about the Klingon honor code, it's dishonorable to die in a hospital bed, but it's honorable to die in battle. What if you get wounded in battle and then die like 3 days later of the wounds you took in that battle? I'm assuming that's okay? I don't know. But yeah, so Klingon honor codes are not worth trying to decipher. It's just something I wonder occasionally because I am, again, a massive nerd. So, yeah, so they, basically decide, yes, okay, we're going to try and be parents, and, and the kid has, the albino skin thing that Voq had going for him in the first few episodes. And then, of course, it turns out that they got bugged, by nanites hidden in the face paint of the other guy, who, basically conned Ash into forcibly trying to wipe it off. So he'd got some on him, and and so L'Rell's uncle is murdered and the baby is kidnapped, and then it's the standard, right? So what you need to do now is hand over control of the Klingon Empire to me, or I murder your son. Uh, so yeah, so they go for a meeting and they have a fight, and I still don't like the design of the Klingon weapons at the moment. I'm an old school TNG fan. I like the the Batleth and the Mek'leth and whatever the knife was called. There's too much curviness to the current Batleth, and the thing that's clearly a Mek'leth. Okay, fair enough. That's sort of okay. It's a bit over designed, but yeah. But I'll freely admit it was interesting to have a Klingon fight with some actual blood in it, because of course, back in the TNG era, you could get away with a lot less in terms of on-screen violence, which means you had these Klingons attacking people with these weapons that were meant to be blades, and just kind of knocking them around and not doing much. So the fact that they can get away with a bit more was actually it was an interesting fight scene to observe. Again, you can tell the stunt people kind of don't know what the hell they're doing with these crazy ass weapons. But it took TNG and DS9 and Voyager a long time to get the hang of how you would actually use a Batleth in a fight. So they're learning all over again now that they've completely redesigned the damn thing, which is always a problem. But overall, the actual fight was pretty good. That was probably the highlight of the episode. But yeah, so Ash gets injured. L'Rell and he sort of are facing off against the leader of the enemy house, and then he cheats like a prick because, well, he's a Klingon politician. Here's the thing: Klingons love to claim honor, but there's a very long description about Klingon honor that SF Debris did a while ago that I do recommend you watch. It's very interesting. But fundamentally, as long as you're seen to be honourable, you can get away with whatever the hell you want. It is pretty much how Klingon honor works. So he cheats, and he's about to kill them, and then a mysterious figure steps out of the shadows and starts murdering everybody, and I just immediately went, "Oh God." Because I knew immediately who it was going to be. Now, I knew it was going to be Empress Giorgio. And, she was clearly meant to be using some sort of holographic disguise underneath the hood, to make her look like a Klingon, which was utterly pointless because you couldn't see anything under the hood. So she takes it off, and then there's kind of this fizzle effect as her face comes into relief, and it's like, what was the point of that effect? You could have saved money there, guys. The hood was dark enough. But yes, so she violently murders everybody, and reveals that the Federation needs Kronos about as politically stable as it can be, and specifically they want it under L'Rell's command because she at least isn't going to try and wage war on the Federation. And so they basically decide that as long as Ash is around, they're guaranteed that this ain't going to stop. So we get a scene in the sort of big council chamber over the giant pool of lava, where she basically claims that Ash betrayed her and turned on her, which it is. There was an earlier point in the episode where he contacted Michael. That's literally the only point at which these two plot lines cross over. And he just sort of says, things are getting a bit dodgy here, you might want to warn Starfleet. It's pretty much pointless. And then she brings out Ash's severed head and chucks it into the lava pit, and the severed head of her dead baby. And she basically says, I'm never going to have another child, but now you should all call me mother. And I'm just sitting there going, oh boy, this is going to her head. What was wrong with just being Chancellor? I get you going for a Daenerys Targaryen, mother of dragons, mother of breaker of chains thing, and no, L'Rell has not earned that. But yeah, so that's kind of where that plot ends, and then the fourth plot of the episode is the teasing for the Empress Giorgio show, where we see what appears to be an admittedly fairly interestingly designed, very sleek ship that's still definitively Federation, but there's just something about it that looks a bit off. It's kind of like the Miranda class, where it's very bunched together. That there isn't the usual saucer, main hull, pylons, and nacelles. It's effectively squashed right down, and it's clear that the nacelles actually move in a similar way to the way Voyager did. And it had this weird ripple effect on it that made us think, was that a cloaking device? Because that's not technology the Federation should have at this point. In fact, it's not technology they even have in TNG, and, admittedly, the reason they don't have it there is that they have some sort of treaty with the Romulans that says they won't develop it. But, there's clearly something about this ship that's potentially interesting. And, Empress Giorgio and, basically agrees to take the baby to some Klingon monastery where he will never leave. Sort of an interesting fan theory that the baby's going to grow up to be the albino from Blood Oath or Thicker Than Water or something like that. It's the DS9 episode where Dax has to fulfill a blood oath that her previous host made to the 3 Klingons from TOS. It's actually a really good episode, but yeah, there's an albino Klingon in it. Or correction, he's referred to as the albino, and he looks Klingon-ish, but it's never explicitly stated what species he is. So there's a fan theory that that baby will grow up to get stabbed in the back by Core survives. I think it's Koloth that kills the albino, but it could be Kang. I can't remember which way around those Klingons were. But yes, which I would find kind of hilarious. But so basically that kid gets dropped off at the same monastery where Worf has his vision of Kahless, who comes to life, and it turns out that they've actually cloned him. That's an interesting idea that they kind of never did anything with on TNG. Outside of the one episode it featured in. But Giorgio basically talks to her, I'm assuming her second in command, or her her minder, effectively. Because again, I can guarantee you she's going to be a bit of a loose warhead. And he says, well, you might need to work at a recruitment speech, and her comment is, nah, he's in. Which implies that the Empress Giorgio series is going to have Ash as a major character, and you're not making it any. Here's the thing: I like that ship. I'd be curious to see it more at some point. You're still not making me particularly interested in seeing a show about psychotic, cannibal Empress Giorgio. Well, okay, technically she's not a cannibal because we've never seen her eat human flesh, but close enough. If you're eating other humanoids that are capable of serving in Starfleet, it's pretty bad, guys. It's pretty bad. But so overall it was a very mixed bag of an episode. A lot happened in it, and none of it was fleshed out to the point it needed to be. You could have done some really interesting stuff with the Klingon politics, but you didn't. You could have done some really interesting stuff with Tilly confronting the possibility she's going crazy, but you didn't. You could have actually maybe tied the is Tilly going crazy plot in with the has Spock gone crazy thing, in some way, and they start to wonder if it's something to do with these Red Angels, but you didn't. And you could have decided not to make a show about a psychotic murderer pootling around the galaxy in an admittedly sexy-ass starship. But you didn't. So it was a very mixed bag of an episode, this one. I mean, as I say, I liked the fight sequence. That was kind of cool. The rest of the episode was too lacking in focus. It was too spread out. There just wasn't any one central plot thrust that was going on. It was we had two overarching plots going on with the Tilly and Spock, the Tilly plot and the Spock stuff, and then the actual episode's plot just got buried underneath so much other stuff. The last 10 minutes or so was here's the backdoor pilot for the Giorgio show. Wouldn't it be really cool if we had this dark, slightly morally dodgy figure? To which the response is, morally dodgy is interesting, psychotically evil is not. Here's the thing. If you're going to do anything with Giorgio, she needs to be the new was it Sloane? think it was Sloane, the Section 31 character from Deep Space Nine, who turns up every so often, does some very morally ambiguous things, and sort of excuses it all with the philosophy of for the greater good. He was a fascinating character. He was really, really good. And you could potentially do something like that with Georgiou. I'm still not interested in a full show of her. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, just because I don't think the basic idea is good does not mean something good cannot be done with it. There's a quote which is, there are no bad ideas, only bad executions. You can take an utterly ridiculous concept and make something great out of it. So, who knows? I'm not hopeful, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. Yeah, so that was episode 3, kind of a mess overall, and hopefully episode 4 will have a bit more focus. Again, as a general rule of thumb, if you've got an A plot and a B plot, that's usually all you need. Maybe you can throw in a little bit of a small, humorous C plot on the side, but if you're running into D plots, you put too much into one episode. Spread it out somewhere else. So for example, you could have stripped out the Tilly plot. Actually, no, I wouldn't have stripped out the Tilly plot. I'd have stripped out the Amanda turns up and what's going on with Spock subplot and left that for next time to give you more time to focus on the Tilly plot, and then maybe try and in some way link it into what's going on Kronos. I don't know how you do that, because again, they're so far apart that you run into problems, but who knows? You could potentially have found a way. So yeah, I think a large chunk of that episode was kind of unnecessary for the episode I was watching. It didn't need to be there. I guarantee you it's going to be important in the overall plot line, but that's something you can't really judge until you've seen the entire season. So yeah, overall a very mixed bag. Hopefully episode 4 will be better. And as I said, tomorrow I'm going to talk about Star Trek fanfiction online. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.